Hey guys, welcome to Vanity Hacks. Today I'm going to be giving my name is Kevin first of all. I'm going to be giving a beginner workshop on writing HTML and CSS. So if this is your first hackathon, or maybe you've never done front-end development before, but you want to create a website for your project, then this will be a really good workshop for you. So yeah, basically HTML and CSS are the fundamental building blocks of all the websites on the internet. A lot of front-end developers, people who write websites nowadays, they use something like JavaScript or React, TypeScript, but those are just tools and languages used to compile that code down to HTML and CSS. All of that is transforming into HTML and CSS before it's displayed in your browser. So it's really important to have a fundamental knowledge of this. We're going to be building an Instagram app today, something that looks a little bit like this, but will probably look more like this, like a simpler version. And what you will need in order to get started is to go to codepen.io. Codepen.io is basically an online code editor that allows you to write HTML and CSS and have the created website be displayed to you in real time, which is super convenient. So I'm just going to log in with GitHub here, but you may need to sign up if this is your first time. And what you want to do is go to pen right here. All right, so now you have three windows, one for HTML, CSS, and JS. We're just gonna be using the first two windows right here for today. So let me tell you about the difference between HTML and CSS. HTML is used to create the structure, the overall structure of your website. All the elements on your website, such as this image, this piece of text, this image, text, image, image. These are all HTML elements, but exactly how they're formatted is whether they're centered, their size, this rounded shape and such. All of that, all the styling is done in CSS. So that's the difference. You create the elements in HTML and then you style it in CSS. So when you write HTML, you also have to first write the skeleton of it, which is just basically two HTML tags, a opening tag and a closing tag. So elements are basically created through these tags. You'll get a better understanding the later on we go. So these two tags represent our entire web page, and in these two tags there should be a head tag and there should be a body tag. So what belongs in the head tag is any meta elements, as well as linking your CSS files, and any icons or the title of your web page, but none of the actual content that's displayed on the web page itself should be in the head tag. It should be in the body tag. So this is where we'll create all of our elements. We're not going to touch the head tag for now. So let's look at Instagram and let's see what we need to create. So we need to create, the first thing would be the nav bar, which is basically this bar up here. And what we want to do is create a div element. So a div is basically just this div tag is basically just a container that can host other elements. As we can see right here, this nav bar is just a container that can host image, this search bar element, and these icon elements. So we're going to create a div that represents navbar. So I'm going to, for now, assign this a class, and you'll see the importance of classes later on. But now I know that this div is going to be the navbar. I'm going to create elements inside of this navbar div. So the first thing I'm going to create is basically this image, this Instagram image. So this isn't like any text. This is actually just like an image. So I can create an image tag, which would be like this, img, and then I should also represent basically the source of the image, where I get the image from. And I can just copy this right here, whoops, and put it over here. So now, as you can see, I have this huge Instagram image on my output below. My output website just looks like this right now. Obviously, this is too big, so I want to make it smaller. Basically, in this image tag, one of the properties is going to be the source of the image, but another property that this image tag has is going to be the height. So I'm going to change the height of this image to like 50 pixels. That's maybe good enough. Okay, that's much smaller, and that looks more like the real thing now. All right. So as you notice, it keeps the aspect ratio. Like when you change the height, it also changes the width as well, which is convenient for us. So the next thing we want to create is basically the search bar. So the search bar is just like an input element. Before I go into the search bar any further, I also wanted to talk about like what is a closing and what is an opening tag. And as you can see for this image, there is no closing tag. What's different about this particular tag is like this like backslash is like inside of like the opening image tag itself. Yeah, so let me just like talk about like opening and closing tags real quick. So each tag, which represents like an element in HTML, has a there should be an opening tag, and there should also be like a closing tag to represent like when the element starts and when the element ends, because like an element can contain like other elements too. So a closing tag always has a backslash at the beginning of it. But say your element like cannot contain other elements inside of it, such as like an image can't contain other images inside of it, then you can just put like the backslash inside of the opening tag. So this tag will be like self-closing. So then you won't have to create basically image tag like this. So, and the same for the input tag as well. You can't put an input inside another input. So the input element is just basically like a text box where you can like write text into, which is like pretty similar to this text box right here. We can put a placeholder. A placeholder is a property of an input text box that allows you to specify any like default text. So this is just gonna have a search for now. And another element we should have is also like my profile picture. So that should be on the very right though. So let's create the profile picture. It should be another image tag, src, and let me pull that up real quick. Paste the image links below. So this right here is going to be my profile picture. As you can see, that's pretty big. So what should we do? We should close it. What happened to the closing tag? Okay. Height. There's going to be just 30 pixels. That should be good enough. Okay. Cool. That looks about the right size. So now we have our nav bar. This is pretty much like what the nav bar elements are. I'm not going to create these icons, but you would know like how to do them, right? So let's format this nav bar to actually look like a nav bar instead of just like, yeah, it's like terrible nav bar right here. So remember how I added a class property to this div element that contains all of these other elements? So I added the class called navbar. And remember, this div contains all of like these images and inputs. So I can reference that class in CSS. Classes are an easy way to reference a specific like element from the HTML side. So if I change the background color to gray, I should see that I should see a gray box around these elements I created, which makes sense. But the background color, at least for the navbar, is going to be white. And it turns out that it's the body that is actually slightly gray instead. So in CSS, what you do is you reference the element through classes, through another thing called IDs, and you can also just reference the element themselves. You can reference like img, or you can reference body, which is what we'll do right here. We're going to reference the body because we want to turn everything in the body, the background color, to gray. So I already picked the color right here. I'm going to use F2, F2, F2. So background color is going to be that. And right, so we got a white navbar and we got a gray background color. And let's also format this navbar a little bit nicer, like add some spacing between the different elements. We can use something called Flexbox right here to do it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what Flexbox is, but it's a CSS property that allows you to center your elements. So flex direction. Yeah, you can like read more about it. I really recommend this website, CSS Tricks, a guide to Flexbox, for telling you how to center and align your elements with this. But let's go back to building our website. So we have flex direction to be a row, and let us align items to the center. That's another Flexbox property. So now, as you can see, all the items are, and it's like centered on like the vertical axis, and we can justify content, which is another Flexbox property, to align the items like that. Okay, but that's actually not what we need. We actually want to use space between instead. Okay, this is a little bit more like what we want, though there should be some spacing between the edge of the page and also the Instagram logo, and same with like my profile picture and the edge of the page. So for this, we can use something called margin, or we can use padding as well. So padding creates some space like in a specific direction. So let's do like padding left, and let's do like 100 pixels. So it creates some space like that, which is what we want. So now Instagram is much more closer to the position of where the Instagram like logo should be. We can also do it by percent instead of pixels. We know this should be like roughly like 25%, I'm thinking. And I think the padding left, padding right should also be 25%. Right, which represents like the space between the right edge of the page and also my profile picture, like right here. So that looks better. Also note how my icon is square, but it should be circular in Instagram. So I can also reference that that icon. Remember I mentioned you can reference elements with classes or IDs. I'm gonna try using an ID this time. So this is my like profile picture icon, and I'm going to give this an ID of let's see, profile pic, and then I can reference that right here. If you're going to reference an ID, then you should use a hashtag instead. I'll explain the difference between class and ID in a little bit, but I'm going to set the border radius of my icon to be 25%. And if you notice, it's a little bit more, like the edges are a little bit more like curved, but maybe I want to change it to 50%, and that should make it a circle. Okay, that works. Great. To be honest, I can use like a class right here too. So if I change this to class and use a period instead, because you represent classes, or you reference classes in CSS with periods, you notice that this styling to the image element, to my profile picture element, is still applied. You typically want to use class elements when you know, or when you think there may be multiple elements that want to use the same, that same styling. Then you can give multiple elements a single class property, the same class property. But say an element only appears once in the page, and you know it will only appear once, then you can just reference it by an ID instead, which is like good practice. And there's a few other reasons as well, which I won't get into. But if you know the element will only appear once in the page, my profile picture will only appear once, then I'm going to reference it with an ID. I guess a nav bar can be referenced with an ID as well, but yeah, whatever. I'll just leave it as a class for now, so you can see like the difference. So let me change this back to a hashtag because it's an ID. Okay, cool. Let me get into creating like the actual, like I guess like card tags themselves, creating like the actual like posts themselves. Yeah. So a post consists of like several different elements, I would say. So you have the header element in a post that contains the user who posted it. It's like profile picture as well as their name, their location, and then you have the body of the post, which is going to, or I guess you have the image of the post, which is going to contain the posted image, and you're also going to contain the body of the post, which is going to have the likes, the post description, and like the comments, and as well as like the input add comment right here. So there's three components, just like summarizing it up again: the header right here, the image itself, and the body, which can contain other elements inside of it as well. So let's start creating the post. So let's create a div container to wrap the post in. Notice I'm using class here because there may be multiple posts on your Instagram feed. Instagram post. All right, so this will contain a element. This will contain the post header. Instagram post will also contain the post image. I'm just making all these divs right now, but maybe they don't have to be divs. And it also contains the post body. Cool. So we have the post header. What does the post header have? This has two elements, basically the Vanderbilt logo image, as well as like the Vanderbilt username right here. I'm gonna skip the location, Vanderbilt University. So IMG src, and let us find an image of Vanderbilt. I think I have one saved, so it's fine. Cool. And then what else? We also have this is another element called a p tag or paragraph tag that allows you to put text inside of it. So Vanderbilt U. Cool. So this has no styling. It looks like this for right now. In HTML, we can actually do bolding. You can also do bolding in CSS as well because this is a style. But I'm just going to do the bolding here. So HTML can support a little bit of styles, a little bit of styling. So you have Vanderbilt U, and what you want to do is basically reference post header. Let's format this a little bit. We should align this. We should put the username to the right of the image instead of below the image. So I'm gonna use Flexbox again. Yep. And that will align it like that. And we can actually update the height of the image here like I previously did. So let's change it to 40 pixels and see if that is more reasonable. Cool. Okay, that's great. And let us also put some spacing between these two elements. So if you want to reference an element inside of another element, if you want to reference the image inside a post header, what you can do is actually something like this. This will reference the Vanderbilt logo inside the post header. I want to add a margin right to the image, so maybe 20 pixels, and this will add some spacing. Margin is basically spacing, and so is padding. It will add some spacing to the right of the Vanderbilt image, so you can, so now they're not so close together. And what I also want to do is I want to, so this post header is actually white, so I want to update the background color too. And it also has a fixed width instead of being the entire width. So let's change the width to 800 pixels. All right, so we have that. There we have that, and we also know that there is some spacing between the nav bar and the post header. But let's actually do that spacing in the Instagram post container instead. So margin top, we can add 50 pixels. Okay. Right, because the post header is inside the Instagram post, which is why the post header moved as well when you updated the margin, the spacing between the Instagram post and also the nav bar. So another thing about each post is that they're kind of centered on the page. So we can use Flexbox to center this post. I think, and we can change the direction. Actually, no, let's just do align items. Let's see if that centers it. Okay, I don't think that did. What if we do justify content? Okay, that does. So justify content and align items are two properties of Flexbox, like I mentioned earlier, that centers basically the content inside of the element. All right, so there we have that. Let's also make this image, this Vanderbilt icon, a circle. So border radius 50%. And let's also add some padding to the left, or margin to the left of it as well, so that it doesn't touch the edge of the header. We can also try adding some padding, spacing, just like inside of like the post header. Like that. Cool. Okay, but then that's like really fat for some reason. Let's see. Maybe we should change this to 5. And that's also a line item so that these two elements are going to be aligned. We're using a Flexbox right here, so yeah. Great. So now let's get this like post image. So I have some pictures and we can use that for the post image, but let's first like create it right here. I guess we don't need a div element because it's just gonna be a single element, so we can just create an image like that. So C is going to be equal to that, and then I have an image right here. All right, that's pretty huge. So let's adjust the size. We can, instead of adjusting height, we can also adjust the width. So our post header was 800 pixels. We can adjust this to 800 pixels too. Okay, so they should not be aligned to the left and right of each other. These should be above and below one another. So maybe you can change the flex direction to column. That's the wrong element. I want to change it in. Maybe change it in the Instagram post. Okay, that's better. That's better. Flex direction, basically, it's another Flexbox property, but it's just like its name. It tells which items. It tells like how you want to align items, whether in a row fashion or column fashion, for like child elements inside of this Instagram post div. So we want to align them like a column, and maybe we have to change a line. We have to add a line item so that it's centered again. Right. So there we have that. Notice that the spacing is a little bit off. The post header is a little overextending past the image, so I think that's due to the padding. The padding adds like 5 pixels extra space to the left and the right, so we can update the width to 790. Some quick math. That should basically change the post header to now be exactly 800 pixels. Because it's the width plus the left and the right padding, which are each 5 pixels. All right, so there we have half of an Instagram post. We also still need the post body, which is this right here. So for that, oh gosh, I think my computer froze. Let's just give it a second. This happens sometimes, but for the post body though, we will need several components inside, specifically the number of likes, as well as the post description, and some comments. Maybe I can just ignore comments for the sake of like finishing this video quickly, and I'll just add the input box right here. So like I said, likes, post description, and also the input box, add a comment box right here. So let's create that. Let's call this likes. I'm guessing we'll need to style that, which is why I give it the class. And let us create a p tag inside this likes that will allow us to add some text to it, such as, what does this say? Liked by someone and 1,000 others. So liked by, yeah, say Steven and 1,000 others. Okay, and let's just bold this right here. And I think the 1,000 is also bolded too. 1,000 others is also bolded. All right. So notice that the post body is also white. The background color is white instead of gray. So let's fix that just really quickly. So let's style the post body, make it white. And background color is white. I think we may also have to set the width, right? Because it's only this little box right here that's white. So let's update the width to 800 pixels. Cool. And let us also add a little bit of padding inside of it on the left side, so that there's some spacing between the liked and also yeah, this left side. So add like 10 pixels of padding, maybe 20 pixels. Yeah, I think with like front-end development, it's a lot of just like guessing how many pixels you need and then trying that. So with that out of the way, we can copy this post body. Oh, one thing we should also fix is basically the font. This is Times New Roman, but Instagram doesn't use Times New Roman. Maybe we can use Arial. So family, Arial. So that should work. So now the font family changed for all the elements inside of post body. All right, let's make the post description next. So div class is equal to post description. Another benefit of just having these classes, even if you don't really use them, like I didn't use likes, I didn't format likes at all, but it allows me to remember or easily like see which element this is. Like I guess I can look at just like the content of it as well, but just seeing the class likes right here tells me that, oh, okay, this is the likes section. So let me create the post description right here. And let me create the p tag. All right. So we should bold Vanderbilt as well. Cool. Something like that. Okay, that's great. Yeah, I think I actually want to wrap this video up like quickly, so I'm going to skip the add a comment and input box and also just the comment section, but adding the input box is pretty similar to what we did at the very top on the nav bar here, and you can also style the input box as well. For example, remember how we can reference elements inside of another element? We can reference the input box inside of the navbar element by doing input navbar, and then we can like remove the border, for example. Just like the comments here don't have a border. We can change the placeholder text. We can change the font size to be like 16 pixels, to be bigger like that, and stuff. But yeah, so and then yeah, one final thing instead of like adding the comment section is I want to show how you guys can just like create another Instagram post with having this one existing. So we created everything, our basically our entire Instagram post within our Instagram post container div. We can copy that and we can like paste that below. So something like that. So now we have two Instagram posts, and we can like change the image for one of them to something else. Let's see. I think it's this image right here. Okay, so we got two different pictures, and yeah, we're manually doing it right here in the HTML and CSS, but JavaScript allows you to dynamically like create to dynamically generate like this HTML and CSS, so you can like have like multiple posts. But the HTML and CSS of like each of those posts is like relatively similar, and JavaScript like does like the copy pasting of Instagram posts like for you basically. So like that's like pretty much what the like website, basic Instagram website will look like. I also want to show one more thing on how to bring this like website outside of CodePen. So if you like copy all this HTML, I just did Control-C, and you open up a terminal. Let me make a new directory, Instagram workshop. You can like paste all of this HTML code into a file called index.html. It doesn't have to be indexed, but the file extension should be .html. So what do you think will happen if we just open, or actually let's also like paste the CSS as well. So what do you think will happen if I open the index.html page? We actually won't see any of the CSS associated with it, which is why we have to create a linkage between the HTML like file and the CSS file. CodePen does this for us automatically, but if we're going to create these like files locally, then we need to create that linkage ourselves. And I mentioned the head tag very briefly earlier, but you can create you can like specify which CSS files you want to use in the head tag. So I forgot like the specific line, but okay, it's like link style sheet main.css. So if we go back to our HTML file and we add this line in the head tag, then it will link, it will try to find the main.css file, and if it finds that, which is just right here, the file that we just pasted, then it will use the CSS in that file. So now we open up the HTML file again, and it's correctly formatted. So that's the end of my workshop. Thanks y'all for listening all the way through, if you did. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions on Discord. My username is Squirtle, SQUERTLE. Yeah, Thanks, guys. Bye bye.